So welcome to the App User Acquisition panel. We're going to be talking about generating ROI from paid channels. I heard there was a lot of controversy earlier when it came to the organic side of things, a lot of disagreement on Twitter there, so I'm sure we'll have some interesting conversations in the break. So welcome to the panel discussion. My name is Stephanie Emanuel. I'm the General Manager of Somo's Connected Customer Marketing Division, and I'm here with a fantastic expert panel. So we're going to do quick introductions. I'm joined by Ricardo Viotti from Facebook, Account Manager at Facebook, Claudia Dreyer-Pepper, CEO and Founder at Colorado. Welcome. And Jan Karnat, Managing Director at App Media, and I think Daniel probably doesn't need an introduction, most people know him here already, Director of Market Development at AppsFly. Welcome guys.
Thank you.
And we're going to start with a slightly controversial question initially. Obviously I will ask you guys to introduce yourselves, but we're talking, you know, so fantastic examples from the train line and other presenters here today creating success in app marketing. But what I would like to start off with is obviously with an introduction to yourselves and the company you work for, and maybe share an example of a really, really bad app experience, if that's okay. You want to kick off, Ricardo?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Ricardo. I work with gaming companies based in India. At Facebook. Yeah, in terms of bad experience, I think like there's one category that I always find a bit tricky, and it's inside travel apps. There was one company, I'm from Brazil, so there's one specific company in Brazil, one of the major airlines there. They have like a travel app. And every time that I go back, I think like they actually fixed a bunch of the things that I actually keep telling them to work it out. It's always like a bit bad. So it's a bad experience always. Yeah.
And it's not bad, you don't actually want to mention them at this point.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest ones there. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So welcome to the panel. And Claudia, what about you? What does Colorado do? And give us an example of a bad app experience.
Yeah, first the easy part. Colorado, we are a company that has a caller identification SDK, which apps can include in the app, and then have caller ID as an additional function in the app and make money from that. So basically we help apps make more money compared to what they do in their existing app. The second part of the question is the bad app, which I've been giving a lot of thought, and usually you forget the bad apps because you tend to deinstall them, or they just exist as a zombie app on your phone.
That's actually fantastic news for us here, so we can experiment and get away with it because people won't remember, so that's good.
See, but if I needed to name one is, you probably know the Brewer app, the Brew Button app. It used to have a peak, now it's going down, so I don't think that's a particular one.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Claudia. And welcome, Jan, you're the Managing Director at App Media. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm from App Media. We're based in Berlin. We pretty much help big clients to get the whole strategy straight on how to do app marketing, what's the right tracking, what's the right CM, what's the right way to acquire users and then actually to re-engage them. So we help them on the whole way to actually have a successful app marketing strategy and pretty much also implement it. Point number two, I think there are a lot of apps, and I absolutely have to agree, the ones that I don't like, I just delete them and forget them. But there's one app that comes back every year, and it's the Mobile World Congress app. And it makes me far off crazy, and I think it's one of the worst apps that you can have if you're actually part of their business. So yeah, this is pretty much every year I'm trying to download it again. Every year I hope they make it better, and every year again they pretty much burst away all my beliefs in that they're actually capable of building a good app.
Yeah, so maybe we have to chat to these guys, but they still manage to attract 100,000 people to attend the event every year, so they must, yeah, the app is probably not the main driver there. Cool, so Daniel, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure, Daniel from AppsFly, mobile attribution and tracking company. We've heard quite a bit about tracking today. helping mobile advertisers, developers to track not just install source, but also ROI, engagement, user LTV, helping them to really deliver optimal marketing strategies and activities. Regarding question 2, tricky one.
You should actually have data to support that.
Well, I mean, but it's a personal opinion, right? So, I mean, I just actually took a quick look at my phone and thought maybe there's an app that I have on my phone that I don't want to name it, but I think everyone probably has it. It's a big, let's say, professional networking app. And the problem for me with it is that it doesn't match the expectation or the experience that I get on the web. And that's really frustrating when I need to use the app. And for me, that's also perhaps more disappointing than an app that I don't like at all.
Yeah, so we're seeing some of the really big brands out there. Still, there's a lot of room for improvement. But let's jump straight into it. And who better to ask than Facebook to talk to us a little bit about paid marketing. So what are kind of the key factors when it comes to generating ROI from paid media, besides obviously accurate measurement? And also, can you share maybe what role creativity or creative plays when it comes to that?
Yeah, I think I could be thinking about how to answer the question like how to get ROI from paid channels. I think the first pillar that comes to my mind is of course like measurement and having like a really strong foundation on the tools that you're going to use. There's a bunch of those in the market, of course, just trying to find the one that fits your business. And the second point is to know what you're going to measure, right? I think this was spoken about previously as well, but I think the combination of those two factors will give you a lot of confidence to have like a strong UA presence. And the second pillar that comes to my mind, as you said, is the creative part. And this has been something that I've been debating with all the partners that I work with. Because it's essential. I think it's also, it connects with data. You can test a bunch of things all the time. But just like at one point, I think this is getting into this industry, not only the gaming, but we're more focused on, but the mobile apps in general, which is like, you need to stop and understand why people download your apps. Because there's a lot of competition, it's overcrowded. So I think, you need to put more effort on developing a creative strategy, and then of course like using this capability of testing a bunch of things all the time, especially refine your strategy. And I think those two pillars they are essential actually to have like a
so measurement and creativity.
Yeah.
And when it comes to creativity, is there anything, any specific formats that work particularly well?
Yeah, I think we had a discussion this morning around video, and for gaming specifically, it's working pretty well, as was highlighted as well. But I think the only challenge with video is it costs more to produce, right? So it costs more actually to A/B test videos. But it's definitely one of the formats that I wouldn't abandon, whatever is the genre that you guys are in. It's definitely, I think, it's the future. On the Facebook side, we're investing more and more on putting video in front of people on newsfeed. So that's why I think it makes sense to try to crack whatever is the genre that you are in.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and we're seeing more and more inventory being available in that space as well. So hopefully not so much 320 by 50 action moving forward. So Claudia, when it comes, to paid app marketing, does that actually make sense for everyone? Because previously the guys spoke about apps optimization, organic traffic. Is that something everyone should be investing in?
I think that's the key question for every app developer. At what point do you really start shoveling money into the marketing channel? And I think there's a couple of things you need to have checked. One is, you need to have a proper working app. Product needs to be good. And secondly, you do your homework on the stores. You need to have this ASO in place and ongoing. So these are just sort of the free goodies you can get before you then start doing the investment. And the other key factor is you need a business model. If you don't know how you're going to make money now or even in the future, then it's nice if you have a lot of money in the bank to try out how you can do user acquisition. But if you have no way on making that money back in the future, then it's a bad guess. And what we've seen, for example, on our platforms, we have a lot of customers who have apps that get a lot of traction, and problem as typically as we see in the market is, yes, they get downloads, organic downloads, but the usage is low. So people don't, engage with the app a lot, which is a problem when you try to make money from advertising, and that's about 70% of app publishers make money from advertising. So if you have no impressions, you cannot show ads on it, which is troublesome. So what we've seen is that a lot of customers that work with our platform, they put in the Colorado SDK in, and then they see, there's so much more traffic, and I'm actually really making money now compared to before, where I only did little in-app advertising. And all of a sudden they have money to say, now I can invest. Now I can actually go and start buying downloads, because I can just see this is a positive spiral up. Okay. So you need to find a way how you can monetize the user base you have, whether they're active or inactive. So this is one thing we have seen. Another interesting model we've seen with another customer of ours is that they go, well, why should I actually buy an install for, let's say, 10 cents? That is very cheap anyway,
Yeah, I don't know where you're going to buy that from.
Yeah, if you,
not from Facebook, I don't think.
I'm just saying, that's sort of the lowest level where you can go if you start buying in volume. So it's going to be obviously higher. But they say, here's a way with the Colorado SDK where I can really monetize nicely. What if I found a way to buy installs a lot cheaper? And what they did was really interesting, because they did not just go to ad networks and buy installs, they bought a whole user base. So they're actually buying up apps, whole user bases, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, what have you, of so-called distressed apps, if you will. They look at them as a distressed asset, an app that has been able to, get some users, but there's not a lot of retention, not a lot of usage, so it's really hard to monetize. They buy this user base for maybe 3 cents, so you can get it a lot cheaper. Then they inject a monetization or different monetization tools, and they know exactly what they're going to make in return. So it's like a 2.5-month return on invest from what they have acquired as the whole user base with proper advertising monetization tools, and then make the money back. It's just, I found it a very, very interesting aspect of acquiring users, not just user by user for your own app, but just buying whole user bases outside and monetize those.
That is definitely very innovative and very cost effective, to say the least. So yes, we should definitely discuss that in more detail. Thank you for sharing that, Claudia. And Jan, we were talking earlier a little bit, because obviously you're representing both kind of the supply and the demand side in your different different roles, so one at App Media, but also kind of your experience in that area. So looking at kind of recent industry data, it suggests that the app market is slowing a little bit, in the sense that we went through massive growth rates, a lot of people investing in app ranking strategies and things like that, and has completely changed. We're now talking about ROI, and people downloading less and less apps. What is your take on that?
Well, I personally believe that right now we're in the phase where really the app industry is in the maturity part. If you look 5 years back, a lot of people were actually downloading apps, they were trying out different things. This was really something where people were speaking about actively. If you look right now at the data in the US, there's people are downloading 0 apps per month, which of course is not the exact number, but it shows a very good indication of how excited people are actually about apps. And I think right now it's rather, if you have to have a great product, you have to really understand how to re-engage with people, you have to really have something that keeps the user using your app, because he will not come to you just by the fact of being very, let's say, into apps anymore. And I think that on one time it's something that happens if a new industry comes up, and then a lot of people are excited about it. That might happen right now to the bot industry. But in the end, for the apps, you really have to see what's the core value you can give the user and how can you actually keep them with your app. And if that's not going to happen, you will never be part of the 7 or 8 apps he's going to use on a constant basis, which for sure is Facebook, and then most probably Instagram, and then WhatsApp. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So, but
you have another 4 or 5 to build this.
I think that's something that marketers and companies have to look at if there's really a business model for them in that, or if it's not. And we have a lot of people who are actually jumping off ship right now because they understand that they cannot make real good money out of that and rather should stick to what they did before. And I think it's positive on the one side because now you have, let's say, just pros in the arena. But on the other side, of course, a lot of dreams blew up over the last 3 years, and it's not going to get better, I think.
Yeah, so the ecosystem keeps changing, creating new opportunities, and keeping everyone on their toes in the process. That's for sure. So in order for us to make kind of the right decisions where we should be investing our marketing spend, we obviously need attribution. We need to make sure that we measure everything. So Daniel, from a paid perspective, can you share some insights? What kind of events should we be measuring? How do we analyze that data?
Great question. Depends on the app, the vertical, the experience. If there's, you can throw out a few top-line events, let's say, that generally across verticals might exist, a registration event or a purchase event. It's e-commerce, add to cart, and what was searched. If it's travel, also the same search, and then booking, gaming, complete tutorial, reach level X, etc. And those, those events and let's say, I would say mini KPIs, which give marketers that platform to understand not just how quality those users are, if they're engaged, if they're loyal, but also how to then retarget and re-engage with them based off of what they've done within the app. So those are the kind of events that are good to see and aligned with where the user came from, and so which channels are delivering the best users, but also then has a massive impact on retargeting and re-engaging with those existing users once they've been acquired.
So would you recommend tracking as many events as possible?
Well, Saikala earlier on said, again, it depends on the company, the app. If it's a small one-man team, then it probably doesn't make sense to track 20 events.
And it probably depends on the pricing model of the attribution partner as well.
Yes, I mean with us it's not a consideration because we don't charge for tracking the events. There are some that do, but either way, it's very important to understand those really critical KPIs and work on that. An advertiser or an app developer can always add more events to track at a later point in time as the company scales up and as they grow. For those that start out, I generally suggest to start with 3 to 5 top events.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Understand, really how the users are engaging with the KPIs that matter the most to the advertiser. Before then, really looking to go much deeper when they have the capabilities, the time, the data analysis, everything that comes together with all this data that they're able to capture.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like app marketing folks need to be both kind of computing scientists, data scientists, and marketeers from what we're hearing. So we would like to obviously hear from you guys, ask your questions. You had very interesting discussions earlier, so please start asking your questions. The experts are here to answer them for you. Any volunteers? There's Aurelie?
Aurelie from Trainline. So we spoke about acquisition and retention. What's your view on when to start what? So do you need to start and build a user base before you start retargeting, or should you actually start doing the retargeting at the same time as doing the acquisition?
Is there anyone in particular you would like? Anyone?
I can take it. Yeah. Well, again, that's always the best answer to these questions. It depends. Because, again, let's look at what we saw before, the app where we actually have commuters, so on and so forth. So what actually is the use case for the user of your app? So if you actually have, of course, an e-commerce app, it makes sense to start to retarget that person very fast and actually try to drive them into the conversion. If you have something else, let's say a sports app where every Saturday the football team is playing, it doesn't make sense to retarget that person on a Tuesday when the team is not playing. So again, I know it's not a really nice answer that you can get at that point, but it really depends what's the product, what's the user, what's the kind of conversion you're trying to actually achieve. So what do you really want from that person, making a purchase, just getting back and pretty much registering, so on and so forth. There's no one answer for it from my point of view. However, it really makes sense as soon as you start to think about acquiring users, also to very extensively start to think about how do you engage them. Because all data shows ultimately you will lose most of these users very fast.
Just to add, if I may, with regards to, for example, apps that have a large organic base before they even get into the paid acquisition front. So obviously there's a large community that they can retarget from the beginning. But usually those marketers are just starting to get familiar with paid acquisition, and retargeting I see as a next step. So in those instances, it's really a question of starting to run test campaigns, drive new users, understand how they are performing compared to the organic community, and then just have all that information and data to be able to decide what to do next.
Do we need kind of a minimum volume threshold of some description? So X amount of, device identifiers or anything like that?
It depends.
I think that's kind of the recurring.
I think Ricardo, not to throw it to Ricardo, but I think you're probably the best place to answer that with people that are starting test campaigns. And
yeah, as I said, I think it depends as well. But to be honest, within gaming, retargeting has been a topic that comes and goes all the time, and still is not really strong within gaming. And it goes back to the first pillar that I mentioned, which is the measurement side, but understanding what is the value of re-engaging with players has been one of the key challenges.
Okay.
But in terms of the threshold, I don't know, I think it depends, but I think for gaming, since I think it's really the amount of the percentage of paying users versus the total amount of users, so it's not, you don't need that much users to start retargeting, but just how to understand how to evaluate that specific part of your marketing strategy, if it is profitable or not.
Okay.
Just as a last remark on that question, I personally think that it's, and I know that the retargeting market is quite big, but I think it's really absurd to think that you have an app, you buy users, and then you need to spend again on, making them active. Need to spend again, although the user already has the app sitting on the phone. So there's a crazy investment. So I tell you what we do. We have this caller ID thing. Every time a call happens, after the call, a screen comes up. It's branded with the logo of that app that hosts this caller ID. It has the logo in there, so it's sort of like a free reminder. This app is there, you can click on it, it brings you back into the app. That is a free way of doing it. It's like, pop-ups coming from the app, but that's just connected to phone calls. That's a freebie. You don't need to pay to re-engage users. That's just my view on, a very radical other take on things compared to the conventional, high sophisticated retargeting. Fine, I appreciate that, but there's other ways you can do it as well.
Yeah, it looks like
no doubt.
I
want to be controversial here and mix things up. I mean, I understand what you say, and so obviously mobile marketers need to be very careful with their acquisition budgets. But at the same time, if what you were saying is really true, then we would only ever see one ad for a brand on TV, and they would never advertise again. Because users seeing the ad, they know the brand, they know that they can go to the high street and they can go and buy a product. But people need reminding, and the capabilities with retargeting enables a mobile marketer to not just put out a generic ad to those users that they're retargeting, but to really cater the content to that user according to the interests and the actions that the user's previously taken. And it's a very powerful tool for them.
No doubt it is. I just think, you can probably add some other methods in as well and save some money there.
Okay, so there are definitely different opinions here. So we have time for one more question from you guys. Anyone volunteering? So that's a very active table over there.
Sure. Name's Robert Costa from Trainline. It's more a question for Facebook in terms of auto retargeting. Is with Facebook, you have the SDK, it takes credit for everything because it is one of the apps that you have on your phone. So, you know, odds are if you have that app, you've been there, and then you go to the app and complete it, so yay. So what I was saying, for video particularly, is there any way to move away from that autoplay? So like, it's very hard as literally, they saw it for 10 seconds, but it's on autoplay, they didn't even look at it. To actually like get uplift studies, is there features coming down the pipe for that? So you can actually properly A/B test where you've got so much of the market.
Yeah, there's no like updates coming, I think, for that. I think like autoplay in general, as I said, like it's something that we starting to roll out, I think, like last year or 2 years ago, maybe 1.5 years ago, only on main markets for us, and it's actually like growing now around globally. But yeah, I think, you know, in a sense, like it's, for some people it could be annoying, let's say, but you can actually like just, you know, and actually take this off and not having like the autoplay all the time. But I think in general it's something that, considering like video consumption and all the studies that we are releasing in those areas, I think it's just proving to be effective. So that's why it's getting actually more scale. But no updates in terms of evolving that into the area that you mentioned.
Okay, great. Do we have more time, James? We don't have more time. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. And over to James.
Okay.